Playing without Steph for the past 3 games, what are some things that you've learned about some of your more complementary players on the roster?
Nothing. I've been together with these guys all year, so I don't look at it like I needed to learn anything. We're just trying to go get a win.
How much pressure is there to win tonight to extend the series?
Well, literally win or go home. So there's pressure, but it's also a great opportunity. Get this one, get home, a few days to prepare for Game 6, to take a breath. We think this is an amazing opportunity. We know how hard closeout games are. We feel like if we play up to our capabilities, play a good game, play a solid game plan discipline, defend really hard, we got a chance to win, and all of a sudden everything changes with one win.
Steve, do you ever try to read your team?
Read the team?
Yeah,
yeah. You get a sense of the mood, and part of the coach's job is to help, change the mood if you don't like it, and I think the mindset is so important going into any game, and every game is a little bit different. The circumstances are different, and I think it's really important tonight for us to be obviously focused, more focused than we were last game. We made too many game plan mistakes last game. So it's important to be focused, but it's important to be loose too, and let it rip. We're in a situation where we have to feel a little more free than we have the last couple games. I think we've been pressing a little bit, and tonight's a night to let it rip and see what we can do.
Do you feel like Jimmy's like 100%, or he's? I mean, I know
I'm sorry?
you said Jimmy. I know you've said he feels better than he did the other night. Is he still kind of getting better, or do you feel like?
You mean from his illness or his?
Well, I guess everything.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't say much of anything about that. Not a guy to make excuses. But I talked to him this morning at shoot around. He's feeling good and ready to go.
Without saying that you underestimated the Wolves or anything, what areas in this series have they played better than you expected they would?
I'm glad you qualified it, because I definitely didn't underestimate them. We knew how good they were coming in. I don't think we've been surprised by anything. This is a team that was in the conference finals a year ago for a reason. We've seen them plenty over the last couple of years. We know how skilled they are, how many shooters they have, how good their defense is. So it's a very complete team. So I haven't really learned anything new about them, to be frank. They've been good, and they're up 3-1 because they played better than we have.
Can you give us an update on Steph's availability for a possible Game 6?
I cannot. I can only repeat what was said today, which is that he's on the court, and he's doing more stuff, more work, and it's a possibility that he could play.
As a coach in a game like this, how do you find that balance between staying loose and, like you said, letting it rip, but also making sure that your team doesn't come out kind of out of control or a little too amped up?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what you discuss in the meetings. That's what you discuss during the timeouts. Let's make sure we're hitting our keys. What are we trying to accomplish in the game? And at the same time, give them that message of let it fly. Go let it rip. And every player is always looking for that balance. Even the great players. Or maybe especially the great players. And so it's one of the, I think it's one of the toughest things to find as an athlete, is that sweet spot where you're locked in, but you're loose. And it's what we all strive for as athletes, as coaches. You're, whether you want to call it the zone, whatever it is, but you can reach that state individually. You can also reach it as a team. And the goal tonight is to find that groove as a team.
Steve, Ant credited you with, advice pre-draft that he thought helped him and you coached him in Paris. I was curious about your view of his development, and also, do you regret helping him?
I take very little credit. I take zero credit for developing him. He was going to be great no matter what. I loved coaching him 2 summers in a row. I felt like watching him that he could be. I mean, he was already becoming that this past summer when we were together in Paris. He had already done what he did last year, so you could see all this over the last few years. But it was fun getting to know him, last 2 summers and spending time with him and feeling his charisma, his joy for the game, his work. He loves to stay after practice and shoot and talk trash with the guys. And I mean, he's a great chemistry player. The rest of the players enjoy playing with him so much. So more than anything, I just enjoyed coaching him. He was going to be great no matter what, but all of those experiences with USA basketball and obviously the last few years, as he's grown with the Wolves, there's a reason he's here now. He's incredibly gifted and really competitive and really hardworking. So it all adds up.
Steve, you've seen Draymond blow up so many possessions and take over so many games on the defensive end of the floor over the years. It felt like Jaden McDaniels did some of that in the 3rd quarter and in the 4th quarter of the last game. Just how would you compare the way that those 2 guys are able to impact what you're trying to do on offense, whether they're on the ball, off the ball, protecting the rim, defending the ball, those types of things?
Well, I don't know if I would compare them to each other. I think they're each great in their own way. Jaden is obviously more of a perimeter defender. Draymond is kind of both interior and perimeter if he's switching. But he's the key with Jaden is just the length and the ability to stay in front. He does a great job sliding his feet, not fouling, and then using his length to bother shots. So he's a great defensive player. He's one of the reasons the Wolves are where they are right now.
See, if you guys had him on the ropes in Game 3 but couldn't finish, obviously Game 4, that 3rd quarter crushed you. Are there things you can pick up from each game that make these guys not necessarily easier to play, but that be helpful to you at this stage of the series?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every tape provides clues as to things you might be able to do, and then maybe ideas for things you should change game plan wise. And then every game is different. Shots go in, shots don't go in, but you try to find the stuff that creates easier shots for yourself and tougher shots for your opponent. And I know that sounds pretty simple, but it's kind of what it comes down to. And then it's up to the players to go out and make plays and make shots. And I would say the last 2 games, they were able to do that down the stretch of Game 3, and then that 3rd quarter, hammered us and was the difference. So tonight it's got to be our night to make those plays. Thanks.
Naz has historically played really well against the Warriors. Just what are you seeing from him so far in this series in terms of maybe trying to get him going a little bit more?
Yeah, like heavy switching lineups, stuff like that. And, I think they've been putting some of their better one-on-one defenders on him. And just trying to, mitigate the damage that he has done. So smart move by them, and we got to find a way to free him up. So.
How about defensively from him as well? Just what are you seeing in his kind of...
Yeah, I mean, we've got him doing a lot of different things out there. So, sometimes it probably might be a little bit too much. I think he's trying to, maybe we're overloading, his kind of coverages. But, we feel like we need to do a lot of that to achieve what we're trying to achieve. But just as long as he stays out of foul trouble, that's kind of plagued him a little bit too. So on both, and that obviously leads to less opportunities on offense.
Chris, you've had a lot of success letting players work through trouble during the midst of regular seasons. Do you try to have the same philosophy in postseason, let guys work through their trouble, or are you more apt to bring somebody else in if somebody's struggling?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we know that all of our guys can play and can contribute. Generally going to give them as long of a runway as they need to do that. I think we saw last series, how it paid off for Rudy in the end. So that's where we'll start. But we're always open to bringing in somebody if we feel that the game needs that rather.
Chris, what John was asking about Nas, I was going to ask about Dante. He seems to be out of sorts for whatever reason. Is there something you see, or is it just the way the game's been rolling for him?
Yeah, I mean, every game, every series is a little different. Like, try not to overreact to all that. We know we need those guys to step up. We know that some of what makes us really good is our bench production and those guys' ability to come in. We got to try to get those guys going. But again, there are heavy points of emphasis for Golden State, and sometimes that's just how it goes. So.
This is the first time you have a chance to close out a series at home in your tenure here. What are maybe the differences, home closeout game versus road, in terms of atmosphere or emotions that may come across that are different from the road?
Well, I mean, listen, I think we've certainly brought that to our players' attention, but less so in terms of trying to like check some box or achieve some objective. We want to be focused, play better at home. We've been up and down at home at times. Put a complete game together, take care of business. I think those are things that come to the arena super focused on the game plan and the small points that we need to execute. Like, focus on that stuff, and everything takes care of itself. Right?
Where we're at right now in the second round, I think you guys in Indiana are tied for second with most wins in the last two postseasons, only behind Boston.
Okay.
Did you recognize, it's been kind of a short amount of time, but you guys have been one of the most successful teams. And do you think there's a sense of the moment for everyone that it might, look what happened with Boston with Tatum going down? Like, this might be the moment here.
We've been saying that not just specific to us, but when you look around the league, I mean, we've not had back-to-back champions for how long? Teams who think they're entering a period of time with a long window, things change drastically. We had Memphis a couple years ago. Anything could happen. So yeah, I always feel it's got to be your opportunity to go for it when you have a chance. And I know a ton of basketball to be played yet, but you can't take anything for granted right now. Obviously, it's super unfortunate what happened with Jason the other night, but by the same token, just the parity in the league makes it so hard. So.
You seem to really thrive being an underdog, and even Ant said after the last game that they were kind of playing like they had won 4 games. Mm-hmm. How do you still keep that chip on your shoulder and coach these guys to not be overconfident?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge, and that's where our maturity has to come through. It starts with the guys, and those guys gotta stay motivated, and there's a lot to accomplish, and we're playing a team with championship pedigree, so they're not going anywhere, and they're going to play desperate, and they're going to play give us everything they got, and they got some guys who can really, they got some winning players over there, so we have to be on guard.
Chris, to your point about playoff success and no repeat champion, I think since the Warriors in 17-18, how do you sort of put what they did in context? I mean, Steph and Draymond and Kerr, this core of this, not only 4 titles, but I think this is the 8th conference semifinal in 11 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's, they're no longer in their dynastic phase, I would say, but the era of Golden State basketball is still rolling on, and they're very, very relevant, and they have been. Even when they've when they've not been at the top in the last number of years, a lot of it's been injury driven, which has been unfortunate for them, but it's incredible what they've done and what they've built and what they've accomplished, and in doing so, really also in many ways changed how the game is played.
Chris, watching back some of the games that when rewatching, you kind of notice that Julius has pulled you out of a rut, and kind of stabilized that. How have you stabilized the offense? How have you seen him kind of grow his sense for the feel of those type of moments?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with his patience. I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that we know we have a much better feel, myself included, of when to go to him, when to feature him, when to play through him, and where. I think we've got a comfort level there, and I think he also realizes that those moments are going to come back to them if they're not always there. So it's just, I think it just comes with having a peace of mind on, who he is, who we are, and how he fits into who we are.
Chris, kind of piggybacking off of that, you've talked about Ant as a home run hitter quite a bit.
Yeah.
With Julius kind of being able to hit those singles and doubles in times where Ant maybe, isn't creating kind of that avalanche that he did in the third quarter the other night. Do you think that Julius and Ant have kind of figured out that, okay, this is when we really need to play through Julius versus Julius kind of understanding, I can feel kind of Ant coming up behind me and this is the time when we need to kind of go through him?
Yeah, it does feel like the rhythm of the game that they have kind of figured that out. I still think there's growth for them to actually accentuate each other in some more actions at times. I think that's still a work in progress, and it's gotten much, much better. It really has. But, they understand how to play off each other within the rhythm of the game, which I think is what you're talking about. So. Thank you.